Amazing, you beat my gong. You save us 4 minutes and 2 seconds. Well done. That's amazing. But seriously, I mean, that's super insightful. I mean, just seeing that click farm, I haven't seen a click farm before. I'm aware of it. And the fact, and also then on top of that, the white collar fraud aspect of it. And I sat there thinking, can we create work that actually get clicks without having to have a click farm? Can we think that big? But amazing. Our next speaker is Anne Thistleton, also from Cape Town. She's a mind science practitioner. And Anne's first job was selling ice cream. And then since then, she's worked all over the world for innovators and companies who are willing to grow. And they include the largest food companies, largest chocolate companies, cigarette companies, beer companies, soft drinks. She's worked on many, many different brands before she came back to South Africa. And she says the biggest insight is that of being a mum first, because she wants to be there when her daughter plays in the first school rock concert. And because of that, she draws very defined boundaries around the time, and she doesn't often say yes, and she very easily says no. So I want to thank Anne for saying yes to be here today and share your insight and wisdom with us. Anne will be speaking to us on the subject of each of us being of two minds, and that we've been listening and talking to the wrong one.
I feel like I need to run up here just to make certain I don't take too much time of my very small 15 minutes. When I was 24, I moved to Boston to get my MBA. I was one of 800 in an entering class. There were 9 sections that were each allocated a lecture hall. Now, these lecture halls were big amphitheater rooms, and there was much discussion at registration of where you were going to sit, because it was going to be your seat for the year. It was the professors who moved around, not us. Right in the front was the worm deck. Way back at the back, very far from the professor, was the sky deck. Great distance. Now, as I still couldn't figure out how I'd gotten accepted to Harvard, I thought, I'll be taking the sky deck. Let me keep my distance from that professor. Maybe he won't really be able to see me. Geez, I got that all wrong. And ironically, it was me who, in the first few weeks of school, was headed off to the eye doctor. But I will admit that when I finally put those glasses on, those scribbles at the front of the room finally made some sense. And that's what I hope I can offer you today. A new lens through which to view your marketing decisions, a more accurate lens to view your marketing decisions, with a basic understanding of how our mind processes information. I think you'll be very surprised by how much sense we can actually make of it all. But before we get to that, I want to take you all back to university days. Imagine you're studying at Stanford University in California, and you've all signed up to participate in an experiment run by Baba Shiv, a neuroeconomist. You come into the room, and you're all allocated into one of 3 groups. Not that you know it at the time. And loosely, just to make this easy, you guys over there are group number 1, here's group number 2 here, and here's group number 3 there. Group number 1 and 2. When you come in, you're handed a can of Sobe energy drink, and you're told that this will help you with the word problems you're going to be asked to solve in a few minutes. You're also given a form that you need to sign, basically given the authority to charge your university account for the Sobe that we've just given you. Then you're going to be asked to watch a movie for 10 minutes. Got to have a chance for that Sobe to take effect. The control group over here, I'm sorry, you don't get a Sobe. Okay, so you're now all handed a piece of paper with 15 scrambled words on it, and you're asked to unscramble the words. See how many words you can solve that you can find in the next 30 minutes. And that's exactly where it gets interesting. Because the control group over here, you guys, real well done. You solved on average 9.1 words. Sobe group number 1 over here, you solved 9.5. But you guys sitting in the middle, you only got 7.7. What was different? Well, you know that form you had to sign in the beginning to be charged for the Sobe? You guys were charged regular price, $1.89. But you guys here got a discount. You only had to pay 89 cents, thanks to bulk purchasing by the university. So in other words, those of you who were offered a discounted energy drink solved nearly 25% less words than those who paid full price. Now, by the way, if I asked any of you why this was happening, oh, you'd have terrific answers of why you did so poorly. Oh, I had a little too much to drink last night. Oh, I didn't get enough sleep. Not a single one of you would have told me that it was because I'd sold you a discounted energy drink. So let's go on to a few more interesting examples. Imagine that this is of course, it is just a stock image, but imagine it's an ad for an overnight delivery service. And you get general levels of expectations of speed and delivery. However, if you put a clock on the wall that no one can see, or no one can recall, I should say, no one can recall, your expectations of speed and service increase by 50%. 50% from a little tiny clock. So let's move on to another interesting example. I ask you about an estate tax. 80% of you are for it. There we go. But if we change the name to a death tax, 80% of you are against it. A complete reversal. And on to my final interesting example. If you're standing anywhere near a Cinnabon store, or maybe even a Mrs. Fields Cookies, you're going to be 3 times more likely to help a stranger than if you're just standing by a traditional retail outlet. Now, all of these are fairly surprising. Why are they surprising? It's because we can't explain a single one of them with our marketing models. With everything we've been trained and everything, we can't explain them. We have to come to the naked truth that the models we were raised on and the models economists were raised on are wrong. That's the bad news. The good news is there's been a complete explosion in how the mind works. There's so much knowledge out there now. And the headline is, it doesn't work the way we thought it did. But why should you listen to me? Well, 20 years ago, when I came to this country, I had the good fortune of working with, thanks to the resources of the Coca-Cola Company, of working with Gerald Zaltman, one of the world's leading sociologists. He gave me the basics on how the mind works and completely piqued my interest, and as I was saying this morning, it actually changed everything. He launched me on a whole decades-long journey working with experts around the world to just understand how our minds work. It was fascinating to me. And it was all within the perspective of one question. What is most valuable to marketers? So, let me see if within a few minutes and 2 flip chart pages, I can tell you, I'll drop this here, what I've learned. Let me just give you some headlines. You probably know the mind looks something like this. You probably also know it's full of neurons. You may not know there's 100 billion of them, but you know there's a lot of them. You probably also know that the power is not in the neurons, but it's in the firing synapses, the fact that lemons are hot. You're probably also aware of this thing called cognitive biases, these seeming irrational behaviors that we have that actually can be attributed to long ago mental connections. You're probably also aware of it, though you might not know it in these words, that we are of 2 minds. We have 2 modes of processing. There's our conscious, which is slow, deliberate, and effortful. I liken it to learning a second language. Je m'appelle Anne. There's our non-conscious processor that is fast, effortless, and automatic. Je voudrais aller en vacances à Paris. It happens in an instant. But here's where the problem is. Our non-conscious processor is the foundation of economic theory, which is the foundation of marketing theory, or I should say it has been. And we were told to believe that it was our actions that were driven, and our motivations that were driven by our conscious mind. No wonder we've spent our careers listening to, through our research, and talking to the conscious mind. It's what we thought drove actions. Sadly, that isn't the case. So what do I wish all marketers understood about the non-conscious processor? I wish they understood 3 things. 1, that our mind is associative. We make sense of the world by taking incoming data and connecting it to what's already in our memories. It really is a mental game of connect the dots. My favorite story comes from my son when he was 3 years old. A friend of mine drove up to the house in a convertible. Charlie'd never seen a convertible before, and he was very puzzled. He studied it, and then he turned to me with the biggest smile on his face, and he said, "Look, Mommy, a car with no hat." And in that instance, he demonstrated how our minds work, that we take the familiar and connect it We take the unfamiliar, and connect it to the familiar. And by the way, we're doing it very quickly, at about 11 million bits per second, coming in through all of our senses. Now, by the way, we are a visually dominant species, so we're most comfortable with our sense of sight. With all these firing neurons over here, 2/3 of them are visual. We think in pictures. We don't think in words. So if you want to communicate with me as quickly as possible, even if they're rudimentary drawings, we think in pictures. The second, I can't even count, thought is primarily below our level of awareness. You know those 11 million bits that are coming at us every second? 50 are going into our conscious processor. 50. We like to use an iceberg to illustrate our mental processing, because it's just the tip that we can see. Less than 5%, the scientists tell us, are our conscious processor. I'll let you do the math to see just how much sits beneath our surface of awareness. But what's sitting in here in our non-conscious processor? It's our memories, it's our experiences, it's our stories, it's our sense of self, it's who we are, and it's constantly processing. But two important things you need to know: we don't have control of what's going on down there. Neither do we have access. So if you ask me why I do what I do, I'll give you a pretty good answer. But it's going to be my conscious mind trying to explain, because I have no introspection capabilities. I do not know why I do what I do. Which leads to the third thing, which is decisions are primarily a function of feelings, not thinking. Feelings and emotions are our signaling system between our conscious and our non-conscious processor. Tapping into my memories and memories and experience. Do I want to approach? Do I want to withdraw? Do I like it? Do I not like it? It's our signaling system to our conscious mind. Now, I do not want to suggest that our conscious mind does not get involved in our decisions, because it absolutely does. But it's a very minor role in comparison to our non-conscious processor. Basically, it's at the beginning and filtering. Oh, that's too expensive. That's too far away. I want blue. And it's also at the end to justify the decisions we've already made. There is absolutely no question that it is the non-conscious processor that plays the major role in our actions. So this basic outline here provides a very powerful lens through which to look at those seeming marketing anomalies. So let's go back to those for a minute. Our minds are associative. Over time, low price has meant low quality, which in an energy drink means low potency. That's not that surprising. What's surprising is those expectations are so powerful that they actually impact product performance. This is no different from the widely understood placebo effect in medicine, the idea that we get what we expect. But come on, I bet you could change the formula of this and cut out half the caffeine, and it wouldn't even affect product performance. But how easily do we change pricing? How easily do we discount? That little tiny clock on the wall, it was coming in here, into your non-conscious processor with that 11 million bits of data. 50% improvement in speed and delivery and effectiveness of your ad through the non-conscious processor. Estate taxes, that's quickly triggering wealthy, quickly triggering, not me, you better believe I'm for that. Death taxes, whoa, that's a completely different chain of events. You better believe I'm against it. Words matter. The words you choose set off a chain of events that can impact your brands. And finally, whoops, a little too fast there. And finally, the smells of Cinnabon, the aromas, the baking. Of course it makes me feel good, and I'm going to help someone. But how many implicit messages are reaching your customer through all of their senses before they actually ever get to you, setting you up for an unexpected exchange potentially? I could go on through pages and pages of this, of examples, but I think you get the point. And the point is, it's our non-conscious processor that wields immense power. It is the drivers of our decision-making. So we're asked to come tell you, what about the bottom line? Well, let me give you 3 things to think about. First of all, you can dramatically increase the effectiveness of your marketing messages by trying to understand what's going into your non-conscious processor. Look at all your marketing activities through the lens of all your senses with one question: what are you lighting up? And ask yourself if that's what you had intended. Second, be very deliberate and very detailed about those marketing research expenditures. If you're doing focus groups, online surveys, traditional surveys, you're talking to the 5%, and you are missing the 95% that drives the action. Have the courage to cut the budget. Take half of it to the bottom line, take the other half out to explore these new research methodologies that are very successful in surfacing what's hidden down here. Third, harness the power of your non-conscious processor. Our source of creativity lies in our non-conscious processor. You just have to find a way to access it. And the first thing you've got to do is put away your cell phones and find your mental playground, that consistent space with no distractions, that you have a chance for your conscious and your non-conscious processor to dance together. It's sitting there. You just have to tap into it. Today, I wanted to give you a view of the power of our non-conscious processor, what's really driving our actions and decisions. It's always been there. We've just never had the chance to see it. We've never had the lens to see it. And finally, I gave you a little taste into my journey, but now it's your turn to start your journey. And there's loads of options on how you do it. Is it a good book? And there are plenty of great ones out there now. Is it webinars, seminars, podcasts, TED Talks? They're all there. There are plenty of options for you to start this journey. But as Daniel Kahneman, who is the man who first proved to us that decisions are not rational and earned a Nobel Prize in the process, as he taught us, disbelief is not one of those options. Thank you.